Hi, and welcome back to the kitchen. Today I have a little bit of extra time. I thought that I would make a video to share with you one of my family's new summertime favorites. We are going to use up the last of the zucchini that we have here in the kitchen. Our zucchini plants out in the garden have been done with for a couple weeks now, but we have a couple stray zucchini left that I thought it would be fun to make up this delicious, moist zucchini coffee cake. It's going to be a little bit of summertime treat and adding some cinnamon to it to bring it into the fall weather that we're feeling today. It's actually in the 60s today and a little dreary out. We had a lot of rain yesterday, which my garden definitely loved and needed. But I thought I would warm it up a little bit here in the kitchen with this zucchini coffee cake. So I hope you enjoy it as much as my family does. The first thing that we need to do is get our zucchini prepped. We need 1.5 cups of shredded zucchini for this recipe. I need to rinse my zucchini off quick because I like to shred the whole zucchini and use those skins too. As long as they're not too large and the skins are getting too tough. I have 3 small zucchini here. That's going to be plenty. I'm going to just go ahead and shred all of it on the spinous grate, and anything that's left over I can stick it in a freezer bag and freeze it and use it on another recipe later. I just want to measure, make sure we have the right amount. I have probably just a tiny bit over 1.5 cups, so I'll just go ahead and use everything that I have here, less this little bit that had a lot of seeds in it. Now we're going to get our dry ingredients together. The recipe calls for 2¼ cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to weigh my flour because I milled some soft white wheat this morning for breakfast when I was making it, and I have some left over, so I want to make sure that I use that up today. If you also want to use soft white wheat, I'm going to measure out 325 grams of flour, and then we need 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoons of salt, and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I'll just whisk that together to combine it. And now let's get together our butters and sugars. To this bowl, I'm going to add our sugar. We need 1 cup of brown sugar. We are going to use 4 tablespoons of melted butter and 1/2 cup of avocado oil. I like to divide the avocado oil and the butter because I like that flavor of butter, but the avocado oil will help the cake stay moist. And we're going to get these mixed together. Now we're going to add in 1 cup of yogurt. I'm going to just use what I had in my refrigerator, and this is a whole fat yogurt, but you could use Greek yogurt, or once I even used some French vanilla flavored yogurt because that's what I had, and it'll turn out good no matter what you use. If you don't have yogurt, you could use some sour cream. Now we'll add in our 3 eggs, one at a time, and we will mix after adding each one. Now we're going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and we'll mix again. And now we're going to add in the zucchini, but before I do, I just want to get a little bit of the moisture out of it, because if we have too much liquid in the zucchini, it will make our cake too moist and it will take forever to bake it out, or it won't even completely bake through. So I am going to just squeeze a little bit of the moisture out, not too hard because it is good to have a little bit left in there. And we'll give it a good mix again to incorporate all of the shredded zucchini. I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for this recipe, and we are going to be baking this cake in a 10-inch bundt pan. Now that all of our liquid ingredients are mixed in, I'm going to grab our dry ingredients, and I'm going to add about 1/3 of it at a time and mix in between each one. Just being careful not to let the flour go all over the place. Okay, this whisk is not working very well. I need to grab my spoon. That's working much better. Now I'm going to set this aside and we'll start preparing our streusel filling for it, the coffee cake. For the streusel, we need 3/4 cup of flour, 1/4 cup brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and to that we're going to cut in 6 tablespoons of cold cubed butter. Now we're going to prepare our pan. We're going to brush in some butter and lightly flour the pan. I have a little bit of butter left in this dish from the butter that I added to my cake batter. So I am going to just use some of that to brush the inside of my bundt pan with, because they can be tricky getting your cake out of sometimes. I'm going to make sure to get it down in all the little crevices so it will easily pop out. And not only am I going to butter my pan, but I'm also going to dust it with a little bit of flour. Now I'm going to take half of my batter and pour it into my bundt pan. And now I'm going to put half of my streusel onto that cake batter. Now we'll add the rest of our cake batter. And we're going to top the batter with the rest of the streusel. Our cake is ready to go in the oven. We are going to bake this for about 50 to 55 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm always a little nervous when trying to dump my bundt cakes out of the pans, because no matter how much I am careful about adding butter so it doesn't stick, I always am afraid that it's going to. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hopefully this will come out smooth. Okay, that looks like it came out perfectly. Our cake has cooled completely, and now I want to mix up some glaze to drizzle over the top just to give it an extra sweetness and also to make it look nice. but I have to say that I have never actually written down a recipe for glaze, and I probably make it different every time I make it. I just kind of go more for the consistency that I'm looking for, whether I want it to be a little runnier or a little thicker. So today when I make this, I am going to try to measure everything out so I can include it with the recipe. So all I'm going to use for this glaze is some powdered sugar, some milk, and some vanilla extract. And I'm going with the big vanilla extract today because when I was making the cake, I used the last of what I had in the little jar. So we're just gonna have to scoop it out of the big jar that I have. We are going to start out our glaze recipe. Let me move this over a little bit. We are going to start out the glaze recipe with 1 cup of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then I have some milk in this measuring cup, and I'm going to just measure out how many tablespoons I'm using so I can add that in the final recipe. So far we have 2 tablespoons, and I'm going to start mixing this up. I would like this to be a little thicker than what I use on some of my other recipes. I do have some lumps of powdered sugar in here. I could have put this through a sieve just to make sure I didn't have any lumps, but I don't think it's going to be too bad. All right, this is pretty thick. Let's see, I want it to look kind of like a ribbon coming off of here. Not too clumpy though, but I don't know, I kind of like that thickness. So that was with only 2 tablespoons of milk. I just went and grabbed a cake plate. And let's see if we can transfer our coffee cake onto here without making too much of a mess. That worked well. Now I'm going to drizzle our glaze over top. I'm going to try to do this with nice thick ribbons of glaze. You can add as much or as little of the glaze as you like. There you go, your very own zucchini coffee cake made with fresh zucchini from your garden. I love how this recipe is such a great way to use up those extra zucchini you have around your kitchen, at the same time treating your family to something special. If you give it a try, let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any fun zucchini recipes of your own, I'd love to hear about them. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I love sharing simple and delicious recipes with you, especially when we get to use some of the vegetables from our own garden. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.